Hello and welcome to the Watson Weekend, your weekly dose of e-commerce entertainment. We're sponsored by VTEX, and I am your host, Rick Watson.
It's Jessica Liseski. My kids are home. I just had to text everyone really quick to say, reminder, stay off the internet so I don't start glitching. So these are, we are in the dog days of summer. This is mom life, camp life. They're not in camps. I need them in camps, out of this house. But
yeah,
that's what we got going on.
Off the Wi-Fi, on the show.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, we have a really exciting show today. We keep thinking that the news is going to slow with the summer, and it just keeps heating up. Don't you think? Like the retail wars feels like it's bubbling in lots of different ways.
But yeah, the retail wars are bubbling. Here on the show this week, we have Target, cheap Amazon, expensive Hermes, TikTok shop, and our main feature of the week is Shopify editions or auditions. You decide. And finally, our wrap up with the famous, the incomparable Nick Kaplan with Kaplan's Corner.
Can't wait. Well, it's a lot to get through. As usual, though, you've got some pretty interesting on this day facts you want to run us through?
Yes, on this day, these are always served up by our intrepid producer, who will be our special guest on the program just in a few minutes. So wait for it. 1776. He always has these constitutional tips. Final draft of Declaration of Independence submitted to the Continental Congress. Okay.
Interesting. There we go.
Yeah, we the people.
We don't want to get into politics.
We the people. No, this is not the day
this
to
is
talk
not the
about
day.
politics. No.
Abort.
Second, 1967 on this day, George Harrison is fined £6 for speeding.
Yeah, that's cheap.
That is cheap. Was he going like half a mile over the speed limit?
I don't know. I didn't know you could speed in those roads in London.
Unclear.
Here we go. Unclear.
Yes.
All right.
2011, Christine Lagarde becomes first woman who's elected head of the International Monetary Fund. So I think that's a big milestone.
That is a big milestone.
So those are our facts.
All right. And now we got jumping into the headline hangover. You're going to start with Target. We talked about Target last week. It feels like we have drips of headlines coming out. What are they talking about this week?
Yeah, Target this week has released a major press release in that essentially they're shuffling the deck chairs. And so the CEO is the same. The head of strategy now is the head of strategy and growth. The former chief merchant is now the new chief merchant. The former CMO is now a merchant, and they're looking for a new CMO. So that's what's going on at Target. It's essentially not much.
So it's more of the same. What we haven't heard yet, though, is besides the discount items, some of the new private label brands they're rolling out. What's the strategy?
Hold on. Checking notes. Waiting for this Target strategy to appear.
Okay.
Look, the strategy in the last 10 years has been how to drive more traffic through stores, using ship from stores to increase the productivity of their retail footprint, which has been
a success.
Yeah, that has been a brilliant strategy. I think the other thing they've done finally is try to revamp their loyalty program. And so that's kind of a new
Target Circle.
Which
apparently they need a chat bot. So their stores know how to people to sign them up.
Exactly.
So, okay.
So
all right.
It's they need a new strategy. And look, Target has 400,000 people at the company, and 0 people they felt were qualified to be the CMO.
So succession planning, maybe not.
Not their strong suit. Not their strong suit. So
all right.
That's Target for you right now. Next up, we have cheap Amazon. What do you have here for us, Jess?
Yeah. Okay. So let me set this scene for you, Rick. This is what I'm imagining, right? So you get this little invite. You're in Shenzhen. You're one of the many, manufacturers and sellers that Amazon has been courting over the years as they pulled out of China, but still established this innovation center in Shenzhen. You get this invite. You get brought into this room. Drum roll, and confetti, we're launching a discount store and you get to be a part of it. So that's essentially the headline here.
Okay.
And it's a $20 or less store, which isn't this just lightning deals? I don't know. But essentially, they're going to have this curation.
Every
And
day is lightning deals, Jess.
every day is lightning deals. But they talked about, the gua sha. I don't know if you've seen that on TikTok. It's this new, facial
No.
phone thing.
I only get advertised
Okay.
shadow work journals.
Oh, shadow work journals, right? And in Granny Talk, you were in
Yeah.
that whole wormhole for a little while. So we have that as some examples of things, some iPhone accessories, probably apparel. But what we're finding is that Amazon certainly is feeling the heat, right? You've got Temu, you have TikTok starting to take some share. Clearly, they're feeling threatened. Last year, they cut fees on apparel. The other thing that's interesting is we've got like a little de minimis situation, because what's happening is FBI is going to take a bypass. So instead of having to go through fulfillment by Amazon, they are basically now going to take it. You can't beat them, join them, use the de minimis rule, and get those goods shipped directly.
Yes.
So it's pretty interesting. I think China represents, from the reporting we did last year on the Marketplace Pulse results, it represents about 50% of the top 10,000 sellers on Amazon, likely driving half of the third-party GMV. So they got to keep this foothold. But wondering if you think this is the path to prosperity.
Yeah, look, prosperity is one thing. I think Amazon has evolved its marketplace over the year and is trying to figure out, how do we keep growing it? And what Amazon sees is Shein is now like the top third or fourth marketplace in America in about 4 years' time. So there's something here that consumers are responding to that Amazon is not providing, and it's too expensive for them to provide because everything comes over by ocean freight. It gets stored in facilities. That's expensive. Then it gets shipped by trucks. That's expensive. So the model here is manufacture in China, or I guess in the future, it will likely be other countries like India, Vietnam, Thailand, etc. But then air freight it directly to the consumer. And so the idea is you can keep your inventory together, don't move it around. You save all those intermediate costs. You do have to sacrifice time. It's interesting. Amazon is saying 8 to 11 days. Best in class for this model right now that I have seen is 5 days. And so the fact that Amazon is 8 to 11 days still means it's almost like a prototype from my point of view. They could have done a lot better, and I'm sure Amazon is aware of that. So I expect a lot more from them out of this.
Yeah, me too. And I go back to, we felt for so long that brands were where it's at, right? Like brands, Nike, people loving, we're going to talk about Hermes, but even go back to like, there's, Anthropologie, there's Lululemon, there's all of these brands that have been coveted for a while. Are we at an age of brand rejection where people ultimately don't care about the brand name? They just want the look. That's another thing that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think, look, at the high end of the market, you're never going to lose the brands, because if you don't have the brands, you don't have anything. They provide the inspiration for the world. And so there has to be an elevated brand to get the look, because the brand created the look to begin with. So it's like the chicken or the egg situation. On the other hand, most consumers are so strange that they are just happy to have a dupe.
Sure.
And so they're not as worried whereas dupe was, I would say, 15 years ago, maybe looked down on. Do you think dupes have the same status now?
I think people have pride in the dupes. Like, look at, I got this look for a significant discount. And I think there's lots of TikTokers in the world building a presence essentially on how they can show people ways to hack the system and where to get them. So, so taking us into the different part of the spectrum, you've got a story here about Hermes, and I'm wondering if this is the rich people's version of side hustle.
Yeah, I think, look, we're talking about the Birkin bag here, which was sort of a collab between Jane Birkin and Hermes, the retailer. It was created in 1984. just talking about the economics for a second, it costs about $1,000 to make. Hermes sells it for about a little under $12,000.
Mm-hmm.
If you are one of the lucky rich people who could qualify to buy it, essentially you need to be spending a whole lot of money already to get it from one of the sales reps, like maybe Casey Golden, who was on our show before, who told us all about how luxury works. And
Yes.
now I can speak intelligently about it.
You're an expert.
If you're able to get, I'm an expert because of Casey. You get 12K, and then you could immediately resell it for 23K, like literally that day.
Yeah.
And it still sort of goes up from there. And so from 1K to 50K to 100K, there's a lot of business that's powered from one bag. That's what I learned.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing the links that people will go to. They're essentially bribing the stores, so the sales reps in these stores, saying, "Oh, here's these concert tickets. So they're probably like upping the ante, right?
Right.
On here's a weekend at my Hamptons house. Who knows? But yeah, it's a very coveted bag for a reason. I'm curious, like how many of these end up getting flipped at the end of the day versus someone holds on to it. But it was an interesting story for sure.
No, for sure. And I think everyone and it definitely seems like, the Kardashians have like this famous collection of how many,
Yeah.
dozens of Birkin bags. And so you see them out with them all the time. And so, so we'll keep following this story.
And then they're on eBay. P.S.
Yeah, they are on eBay. Are they real?
Again, do we care? Look for less.
Exactly.
You've been duped.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So in the retail wars, it doesn't just start with and stop with retail. It also marketplaces are in the mix here. And there was this story also that Marketplace Pulse put out this week that Temu and TikTok Shop will overtake Walmart in marketplace sales by the end of the year, which is pretty fascinating given how much we know Marketplace has been a contributor to the e-commerce growth on Walmart, right? In their last earnings report, they talked about e-commerce in the US growing by 22%. A lot of that had to do with these third-party retailers on the marketplace, helping them gain foothold in other categories like sporting goods, like furniture, like apparel. And what we're learning is that TikTok is going to reach 17.5 billion by this year. That's their North Star goal. Temu has a goal of 60 billion. 40% of that's going to be the US. And we know that Walmart's not yet at that state with their marketplace. Do you think this is going to happen? Is this the Nostradamus version of what's going to happen this year?
I think it could happen. I mean, I think TikTok Shop people are figuring out how to use it. I think a lot of people originally thought that brands were going to get on TikTok Shop and sell themselves. Like, that's not how it works. You have to create entertaining, fun events powered by people like Mr. Beast is for YouTube, those people on TikTok, to create these multi-million-dollar events. That's going to drive the GMV volume.
Right. So we kind of have this mix of the live selling coupled with people wanting and that look for less, coupled with people also feeling more relatable, right? Like it's not just these celebrities coming on, like what you see in Instagram or even these major influencers. It's like everyday people talking about things that they're buying and promoting it and jumping on these trends. So it will be interesting to watch. And then I think you're going to round us out. We've got a kind of the tried and true now. It's the Christmas in July, right?
Yeah.
For Amazon.
Prime Day is coming. And that's another year Prime Day, everyone. That's all there is to say.
That's all there is. Yes. Prime Day is back, which basically means Target, Best Buy, Wayfair, everybody's going to run sales at the same time. So if you haven't scored your favorite deals already, because everyone's just been running deals 24/7, trying to get you to buy, July 16th and 17th are your days, people. So there you go.
Yeah. You had a note about Megan Thee Stallion here. What do you want to say?
Yeah, actually that is, so, if you can't get attention for Prime Day just because it's Prime Day, what do? You get Megan Thee Stallion to come in, do a little song about it and tell you where to shop. So here we go.
All right. Well, maybe from the
That's what we
dance
got.
off, you could try to sing the jingle for us or something.
Oh, I can't. Yeah, she's too cool for me. There's no way I can even like. I don't have the Riz. That's what the cool kids say now.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
got it.
we got it. Speaking of Riz, we have the Riz, king of all Riz here, where Vinny O'Brien comes in and he is going to respond to Aaron Sheehan, who seems to be flogging him here. So I think Vinny has to respond to his own detractors. So welcome, Vinny. First of all, welcome, Vinny, to the show. You're always on the show. You're just behind the scenes.
Yeah, hey guys. Aaron, you're going to pay for that one. Rick, the question I get asked loads though behind the scenes is that a natural perm or do you use some sort of product to get the volume in there? Because your hair is always up.
It's a light product.
It's a light product. Jess,
it's an enhancer. It's an enhancer.
It's an enhancer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not going to go there. There's just too much room to play. And great to see we didn't go down to politics, Ruth. God, that was fun.
We know our limits here. We're gonna stop it right there.
And that's why I put in the history, Rick, because that's the last time politics was good in the US. Joking.
Well, between Jess and myself, we have to figure out which candidate is going to be replaced before the election.
And there's a number of ways that can happen. So on Aaron's point, I'm going to come on in a couple of weeks. I'm going to rap wearing a blue blazer about Guinness in a self-written rap. No GPT, no AI, just me.
Oh, okay. I like you've accepted the challenge.
I can't not. It's like Tourette's. I've got this tick. If someone, it's like, hey, McFly, you chicken? And then I feel this thing bubbling up inside me and I just got to go. So, yeah, bring it on, Aaron. And I know you've been coming over this side of the pond recently as well. Are you due to? So maybe I can do a rap battle against you. Gauntlet thrown down. Boom.
I like it. All right, Aaron, let's see what's up. So we brought you on, Vinny, because some things dropped from the Shopify news world, which was, going through what their standard kind of product release, next evolution of the platform looks like. Rick broke it down. You had a lot of insights on this as well. I will fully admit, this isn't all in my sandbox. I just like to throw some toys in here and now. So I'm going to do my best to really let you guys have the floor here. But let's break down what was in the release and what were kind of some of the highlights.
You can jump in, Mr. Watson. You didn't break it down. You built this up. Go for it.
So there are a couple of things that Shopify has done in this release. Mainly, first of all, Shopify looks at kind of the standard of retail and e-commerce and says, are there things that every consumer or merchant just expects? Are there apps that every single merchant installs? Do we need to make this default on Shopify? And, frankly, ecosystem be damned. Shopify doesn't necessarily seems to factor that into their decisions. So that's kind of one. You call that like more defaults. Second is competitive checks. So if you look at who does Shopify listen to for a lot of feature requests, I have always thought it's the agencies. Because one of the keys to Shopify's growth, I just said Amazon. Let's talk about Freudian slip there.
Yeah.
Shopify's growth is their agency system integrators. And why is that? The system integrators are actually the ones, well, mostly, let's be honest, the average Shopify agency is just customizing the theme. But the elevated Shopify agencies are integrating with back office, front office, creating a great experience, all these things. And they run into issues, particularly with more complex business as Shopify goes up market. And so they're creating custom things, hack workarounds, any number of syncing devices, and there are gaps that they have to fill. And so those requests get back to Shopify and on roadmaps. And so that's kind of the second thing. And then finally, there are plenty of areas where other platforms have been around longer than Shopify or had a different focus than Shopify that their sales reps care about. So in particular, with regards to BigCommerce and Salesforce, Salesforce has been around a lot longer than Shopify, particularly with a lot of larger brands, even though Shopify says Mr. Beast is an enterprise brand. He is not. Um,
Oh, dear.
a lot of these things are new to Shopify. And so the 4 areas that I would call out for the release are inventory, analytics, checkout, and AI. So that's kind of the high level of the release. And obviously we can dive in and unpack that as we go along.
First up, what a move bringing Glenn Coates out on that video. Super slick, very presentable, I must say.
I think it's almost like he jumped out of my notebook.
He didn't like an aha video. I know you love an 80s music reference. But he kind of made it easy to let the medicine go down. That's the way I saw it. But there's the devil in the detail of what you said there. And this is an evolving discussion. So you said that it's the SI that's really important here. And I always believe that it is. Shopify's great marketing technique is mindshare. So getting the mindshare of all the people that are out there selling their wares. In the mid-market, is it the SI that's driving the strategy of the retailer? And then in enterprise, actually, retailers have strategies and they need partners to execute on them. Is that a big difference that maybe is a subtlety here that's emerging? It's not something I've thought about before, but as he said it kind of occurred to me.
Yeah, I do think that agencies create roadmaps for a lot of these SMBs, particularly as they get to the next level. What they're doing is sort of pulling down from the enterprise strategies, and you're like, here are the next 5 or 6 apps you need to install. Here are the marketing campaigns that those apps will enable for you. And so as a result, you're kind of creating that business roadmap. Most those mid-market retailers don't have a well-defined strategy function. And so I think it's a pretty fair point.
And also the cost of failure is kind of minimal to people. So to try these things, like if there's 152 product releases on this particular editions, getting 4 or 5 wrong along the way is not going to cost anyone too much. But the kind of positioning of it I thought was really interesting. You've also said that you think the jewel, the crown jewels, or the jewel in the crown, I can't remember which movie that was. But you said it was the unifying of inventory. I tried to say that without saying unifying, because who wants to say that? But I thought they've kind of nested B2B in a hidden spot.
Comment on the release in terms of the features that really caught your eye?
Markets was a big surprise, the way it was put together. And I've
the old markets or the new markets?
Exactly. The Marquets. Maybe it's a French Canadian pronunciation. I don't know. They're spending a lot of time north of the border. So I just thought it was interesting the way they kind of took something that in principle is really important to people, which is international markets. And now they've created markets which are, business models within retailer strategies. And I thought it makes a big jump, particularly if you're an SI who's been out there trying to sell markets to your client base for the last 12 months or 6 months, I should say, telling them what's going to happen for 6 and then trying to convince them to do it for the next 6. And now you're trying to get in and say, well, actually, markets also includes all these other areas. And for me, the biggest challenge for me to get my head around was how B2B just all of a sudden fits into this small nook. And they've, in the last earnings call, they mentioned B2B and its importance. And, they're number one on the
carrier they mentioned
once. So look, I thought that was crazy. You said analytics was really good. I felt that piece didn't land as well for me, to be honest, because it's such an important part of the mid-market, the understanding what's going on inside your business, and particularly if you're unifying inventory. This should be your trade center where you can see everything going on. And it didn't land as strongly as you have seen it. And maybe you saw something different. What way did you view it being so strong?
Yeah, look, I thought strong is maybe a strong word. I think what I saw from the analytics was that it was encouraging that they were working on it at all. And it seemed like they had forgotten about reporting for a long time. And I think Shopify acquired a reporting company, like a couple of small ones there. So from that point, the fact that reporting moved to real time, the dashboards got to be customizable, and then it gives you hope that there's now an established team for improvements here that you might see in upcoming editions.
Can I ask a question,
Okay.
kind of in a similar way, but we talked a lot about the risk with Shopify if you're some of these apps, because it's happened in
Mm,
the Apple ecosystem, it's happened in other
mm,
ecosystems, is there's a disruption, right? Because
mm.
they end up building a feature that disrupts someone in the industry. Was there anything in this release that, whether it was Klaviyo or whether it was, a CMS or something like that, was there anything that you felt was particularly disruptive or starting to hint at disruption for some of these, larger SaaS businesses?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think returns was definitely in the list. There's a slew of returns vendors, some big and important like Loop,
Mhm.
some smaller. That it seems like Shopify keeps raising the water level on returns. So returns
Mhm.
rules are now standard part of Shopify. Returns rules, if you go back the last 15 years, no platform ever has cared about returns, like Magento, Salesforce.
No.
You just go down the list. It's just not anywhere in e-commerce. It's almost like, but Shopify feels it's part of the standard, which every retailer has returns. So it's a little bit surprising why that wasn't in here before. Upsells, that is, I think, another one that's in the list where that is a standard part of Shopify now. Their acquisition of checkout blocks, which is standard customizability for the new Shopify checkout, is now completely free, where that used to be an app.
Mhm.
And so that's a whole disruption on that part of the ecosystem. Those are a few that really just stood out to me
Yeah.
as we kind of go through this. How about you, Vinny?
Similar. I didn't get too caught up in it, to be honest. Where I was trying to get to, and you've mentioned it as well, was if I'm an enterprise brand, what's in it for me? Like,
Hmm.
and again, this probably falls on deaf ears because it's not the brands who are there looking at this. And Jess, you've been brand side for so long. Have you ever paid attention to it before?
No, never. And I'm wondering, like, I do, because of being this and like talking to you guys and following you. So I feel way more educated on the platform ecosystem. But if I wasn't, no, I wouldn't know that the Shopify, what the latest features were. And I guess the question, and it's honestly clear when you read it, it's not for the brands, because
Right.
there's no real mention. You talk about the features and they're breaking them down. What does this do for your business? What does this do to help you better engage with customers? It's not written for me as a brand or a retailer. It's very clear. And I think we were talking about this earlier. Feels like it's definitely written for the agency. It's written for the SIs to go and then communicate this to the SMBs or the people that they're working with ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I always felt, first of all, I couldn't agree more. It's almost like Shopify doesn't have a product marketing team, or
Yeah.
if they do, they don't view it as their job to like segment their ICPs and like figure out these are the audience we should be speaking to that are using our product. Like the audience is really their customer success managers, who then should be talking to the brands and distilling it down, because you don't see like enterprises should do this, mid-market should do this, people in
Right.
apparel should do this.
Right.
Here's, it's like Harley goes on LinkedIn, Bobby goes on LinkedIn, but no one's really breaking it down from the brand's point of view.
And actually, that's where I thought Shopify is sort of missing an opportunity, because why shouldn't they do that? Why shouldn't they go out and talk about what makes their platform the most relevant platform in best engagement from a customer experience perspective, right? Like, isn't that the opportunity versus just doing the typical standard release that any other software
Yeah.
or
Here's a
services
bunch of
company would
features.
do? Here's a feature, and good luck, right? Godspeed. So is that not like a chance for them, being this disruptor, being this emerging platform that is trying to convince a brand who you've said multiple times would rather chop off their arm than re-platform, to do it? Like, shouldn't they speak more directly to them or not? Curious.
You brought me back to the old eBay seller release days there, Jess. Remember those? Twice a year, we
Yes, I do.
all get really nervous that these things were coming out, and you'd have entire communication teams devoted to being on message boards going, what the hell have we done? We're going to have to roll back on all these decisions.
Damage control, damage, abort. Yeah.
Who did this? Yeah, the panic was crazy. But to their credit, there is nobody doing releases like this. Like what they put together and the volume of features that were rolled out, it's so impressive. And I wonder, have they devalued themselves a little bit? I mean, if this was anybody else in the market delivering this kind of a result set, it would be talked about until like someone got shot. But it's not like it. They've devalued the volume.
Are you underselling Salesforce, Vinny? They released a cute little Einstein character.
I can't say anything. I'm going to Salesforce's head office in Dublin on Wednesday. So until I get my summer cocktail, I'm going to say nothing.
You don't want to get that invite revoked. Okay, so I have another question for you guys. What about Shop Pay? So we keep thinking that at some point there's going to be this aggregation. You know, Shopify does have the building blocks if they wanted to create a marketplace. We know they haven't. We know they've not really made any headways. Is there anything in here that starts to hint at a little bit of that aggregator-esque capability?
Generally, no.
Okay.
They certainly have not. They continue to push the brand message first, meaning that you're the brand, you own the customer. Now, Shopify is collecting its own customer data through Shop Pay. And it's very clear they have this network of now over 100 million email addresses and whatever. And now, if you go, like, one of the most scary, I mean, this is like Darth Vader level shit feature here, where you go into a Shopify POS and you check out, and if it recognizes your phone number or email address,
it
pulls up, and then it's pre-filled for you to share that email address with the retailer. I'm like, that's scary. Like, props to some product manager and the Shopify's team, and we'll have you on the program if you're listening.
We'd love to know where that got whiteboarded and conceptualized and rubber stamp for sure.
So it's interesting that you say it's kind of like Jedi mind trick stuff, because a lot of commentators on experiential commerce, they're advocating for this type of technology or this level of integration in our lives. I'm with you. I think I don't want that kind of integration. I like some sort of separation between me and my retailers.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I will say, as on the consumer side, definitely getting a bit more of a push from Shopify to download Shop Pay. So, as I'm preparing, Vinny and Rick know this, I'm going to Italy, very excited. I'll be with myself and millions of my closest friends who are also
basic. Oh my God, sorry.
journeying from. Yeah.
Can I jump in? You just gave me an idea for the marketing in Italy for Shop Pay. It's Eat, Pay, Love.
Oh,
there you go.
There you go. This is why you're so good at what you do. So
have it for free.
So for sure, because you're not spending enough money to get to Italy, I've got to spend on the things to prepare for the trip to Italy and like get my cool factor elevated here. So as I've been around shopping, I'm definitely getting more emails from Shopify to download Shop Pay. Here's the reasons why you should download Shop Pay. So they're on the consumer side, they're certainly making a push, and haven't taken the bait yet, but
I don't know that they need to make it a marketplace just yet. I think what they've done is given themselves an ability to have a media network. Now they've got physical locations through POS as well as all online. That would be enough to increase the value of Shop Pay to them without having to be a marketplace and all the BS that goes with running a marketplace, which I could see why they don't want. I'm actually only 27. I look about 60 because of all those years in eBay. But that's what marketplace living does to you. It just ages you. It's tough. It's unrelenting, and it's not something they want to get into rightly.
Yeah, I think the thing that most analysts have looked at Shopify and like, why don't you spend more time working on is advertising? And I think Shop Cash campaigns is something that they continue to sort of like incrementally piece towards. And so this is something that a seller can fund. And then Shopify will run ads for you on Google and Meta, almost like if you're a top seller on Etsy.
Yeah.
Etsy will run ads for you. You don't necessarily like, you're not in control of them, but you're only paying for results.
But you have no choice but to opt in.
you can opt in. You can opt in. On Etsy, you can opt out.
Yeah.
On Etsy, you get your Barrymore points for opting in, right?
Exactly. Chief Gifting Officer. So
Santa Clarita Diet.
Yeah. So nothing groundbreaking then necessarily. What do you think? Where do we go from here? Like, what's then the next frontier for Shopify? Kind of post this release.
I mean, look, one of the biggest things I think in the release is they unified all this inventory. Vinny mentioned that the more you have to split up your inventory into multiple buckets and multiple accounts, the harder it is for you to sell through that inventory. And so I think the fact that Shopify unified all those things is super useful. I think we're still missing from an enterprise point of view. Like, we're in 2024 and we still don't have a staging environment, Shopify. I mean, at Channel Advisor,
is that important?
At Channel Advisor, we had a staging environment in 2000. And here we are 25 years later, and developers on Shopify do not have a staging environment. I mean, WTF.
Yeah, it's problematic. I mean, this also goes a bit to that immaturity of, sure, people can just release it in the wild because they could just pull it back. They'll pull it back. Like,
exactly.
Not happening in enterprise land. People clearly don't understand. We want to test everything until you can't test it again, until you have all of the data that says she's ready to go.
Right. So, even if you're just changing the color of the blue font.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I ask a question then? It's a two-pronged question. So can they keep this pace of release up? And the other one, which I think is more pertinent, is should they? Like, is anybody getting near what they're doing? And would the rest of the market notice if they did 50% less?
It's a good question. Can they keep it up? I think, yes, they have more developers than anyone else than I can think of in e-commerce. I think the challenge you have with absorbing this release, which is always an issue, there's only so many, particularly at the high end of the market, that you can absorb. And Shopify isn't really telling large retailers what they should absorb from the release. They're relying on their sales reps for that. Like, in the sales process, like, oh yeah, we just released some things. Here's what we did. There's no like one digest for enterprise on Shopify anymore. They're even like killing the Plus black bag.
Oh.
Pour it out. Yeah, pour one out. RAP.
But I think it's should they? That's the question that for me is going to be telling, because it's when they have a bad quarter that all the pressure is really going to come on. And by keeping this unrelenting pace going, they're adding pressure to themselves, I think, without necessarily needing to do it. But that's just me. That's why I'm normally in the background, not doing anything.
Yeah. I mean, I think the question is like, okay, you have 150 plus updates. Will someone notice if it's next quarter, it's 125 plus updates? I think no one will notice.
It all comes down to, from the investor side, do you continue to believe that Shopify can maintain their efficiency gains that they've had while capturing more market share? On the retail brand side, I think it's a matter of where's the place that they feel like they're losing, and how do they start to articulate the story differently of where these releases help them close the gap. And I think that's probably the dots that haven't been connected, but maybe they'll do them over time, or maybe they'll do them in their next earnings report as they talk about this release, and they translate that to ultimately where does it help them grow as their mantra or their North Star of being the leading platform for the enterprise.
Right. Yeah. And look, that's something that they're still building forward. But in reality, if you kind of go back to what enterprise brands and retailers are looking at, Shopify, to their credit, they're in every room. And
Yeah.
they've gotten on everyone's radar. And part of it is just because of this relentless innovation message. And that's not stopping anytime soon, number one. And second, the other platforms, especially the big ones, won't name any names, but some have hair that stays up like mine, but it's white instead of black. They're not releasing too much. It's more of a giant sucking sound out of them.
All right. Well, any final words? That feels like a good place to close.
No, I think we got through quite a lot. So much so that Rick wasn't on an internet delay just there. The questions were just so hard hitting that he needed a moment just to articulate what it is he wanted to say. But no, look, it's still look. I think hat tip to everyone in Shopify. It was really, really seriously impressive. I think their community always get excited about it. It's what you do that now. You know, all you agency types out there and heads. What are you going to do with all these new releases? How are you going to get them out to your teams? I think the challenge is on you guys, and we're already planning for Christmas, and it's only the 28th of June. Dear God, what have we done?
That's retail for you. We basically get through one, and we're already planning for the next one starting in January. So
I know.
Buckle up, people. On to the next.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we have our dear friend, Nick Kaplan, who's coming on for an edition of Kaplan's Corner to help us close out this show. And I love that he's Pollyanna-ish. Really sums you up so nice.
Pollyanna-ish. I love sitting here listening to the show. There's like so many great comments that I could add. I'm like thinking to myself, like, this is what I would say. So I will say before I jump into another riveting episode of Kaplan's Corner that Mr. Watson and I were in a meeting yesterday with a person whom we would say is quite credible at a large firm who made the comment that Shopify has possibly solved commerce.
Oh,
so
bold statement.
I think that's a pretty bold statement, but I can tell you I'm not sure I disagree. But let's talk about how you value your business, because Shopify is the front end of commerce, but our businesses use Shopify, but they're not all about Shopify. So as we get into this episode of Kaplan's Corner, we're going to talk about math, baby. I love math. If you love math, raise your hand. So your business has a value. Thanks to our friends in the public and private equity markets, there are some ways that you could value maybe 1 times revenue, 8 times EBITDA. But to me, as we talk about what is the true value of your business, at RMW Commerce, we have begun to delve into the trailing 12-month active customer file as the barometer of your business's health. Think about it. The value of your business is how many transactions you do. Transactions times AOV equals revenue. Those transactions, consider them X, are comprised of Y, new, and Z, existing customers, right? Right. Meaning, over the last 12 months, they've behaved a certain way. You've done things, they've responded. You can then think about value. Well, let's think about that. New customers, right? New customers spend divided by new, your performance media or any kind of spend you do to acquire a customer, divided by those customers is your NCAC, new customer acquisition cost, right? Right. You need to convert those customers to existing customers or they go away. Hopefully they stay, but not everybody does. And that's retention. Side note, not all businesses are equal. I had breakfast this morning with a friend who manages and owns a luxury fashion brand. They have handbags. Customer comes in maybe once a year. I work with another person who has a beauty business. Their customer comes back every 45 days. Clearly, all customers are not equal. So that has to be factored into your equation. Now let's go back to this riveting math. Existing customers, right, that stick around and buy in their next 52 weeks, the percentage of those customers is your retention rate. Now, let's do some math. Look forward. You have $1 million of spend, right? You have a $50 NCAC. You're going to get 20,000 customers. Those 20,000 customers times your AOV, $100, that is $2 million. Now, our 100,000 customers we currently have in our trailing 12-month database, those customers are going to stick around to 40%. That's our retention rate. 40% of those people is 40,000 customers. Now, existing customers don't spend as much as new. So let's say in our case, they spend $88 and they come back 2.2 times. That is $7.74 million. That together with our new and existings gives us, looking forward, $9.74 million. Our CFO, not the Renaissance CFO, but the traditional CFO says us, wait. We need 11 million. Okay, well, what has to happen? Either to bridge that gap between the 9.7 and the 11, that 1.3, either you divide that by 50 and you go spend more money, or you think about a way to get those existing customers to shop more. Now, if you're merchants, hopefully we're one big happy family, we're working together, which is the org of the future. But if we're not, we don't have a Renaissance CFO, we probably now have, for the $11 million that we can't do, $11 million of inventory. What happens to that $1.3 million? Yikes. It has to go away. Brand degradation, markdowns, bad, and bad. So I leave you with this. Number one, think customer first. Like, talk to them. Like, literally talk to your customers. Like, call them. Talk to them and understand them. Have a North Star. 2, like, look at solutions that empower you to communicate with customers, right? Like, you need to be able to understand what you're serving them. Think media and data. Use media to, like, connect and build an emotional relationship with your customer, and, like, test and learn and fail fast, and then use that data to measure how it works. And think about this, right? What problem are you solving? What are you doing for your customer? And that's like the vision to the strategy to the roadmap. And is the product, which is really ultimately what's at the heart of this, is it aligned with that problem that you're solving? Does everyone understand that? So I will say people using data, understanding vision, and all managing organizationally towards the growth of the trailing 12-month customer file, build, grow, and make companies win. And don't forget that. It's not EBITDA. It's not revenue. Those are derivatives of your customer. And if you're going to come in on Monday morning and be like, we won, that's going to be an incremental gain to the trailing 12-month customer file. And if everyone understands that in your organization, you are golden. You are set up for success. And in the words of us RMW commerce people, you're poised for greatness. And that, my friends, is Kaplan's Corner this week.
Amazing.
Thank you, Nick, as always, keeping it real. And you don't win if you don't have the customer. So
no, did I do a good enough job to get to go to Italy with you guys?
Yeah, yes, of course, always.
Wow.
I mean, I would just be another American eating pasta, looking at cool.
Hey,
art.
you can help. Look, if you can help me find the wine windows, then we're all set.
One of the things I learned about your Kaplan's Corner, Nick, was that you eat loads. Like everything was prefaced by, I was eating this, I was eating this. You need to mix it up a little bit, okay? Next time you tell in Kaplan's Corner, I want to hear something different.
I'll come to Ireland and we can talk about it.
Yeah. Have you seen how many snacks he keeps by his desk? He has like 27 snacks at any one time.
I mean, he's got to fuel the brain for all of that math he's doing in his head. So it's got to come from somewhere.
How'd you like those apples?
There are many different ways to get
How do you like those apples? I like it. I like it.
Oh.
Y'all, we're just missing the whiteboard. Well, I think that this is a fantastic way to close out the show, especially, Nick, as people are getting into their strategic planning. Doing that level of math is super important as you think about where are we going to add value to our customers to grow our file. And this is the kind of knowledge we like to drop on Friday. So you're welcome. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for listening to the show.
You guys.
And you get to dance with us, Nick. So,
I mean, always.